Good morning. Donald Trump is changing directions on the war in Afghanistan, reversing his long-held stand that the U.S. should pull out and promising to commit new troops and resources to the 16-year-long fight. We lead off our coverage with Aarti in Washington this hour. Aarti, we didn't get the specifics, the nitty-gritty of just how many troops, but we did get some detail and a new policy direction for the president. Take us through the content of his primetime address.
Good morning, Heather. Yes, light on details. When we were speaking earlier yesterday, we were talking about a few thousand more troops on the ground. Well, he wouldn't give a specific number during that address last night in terms of the U.S. involvement in Afghanistan. But it certainly appears that there will be a deepening of the involvement. But in terms of numbers and a timeline, there isn't anything there to go off of because Donald Trump would not be specific about that. He said a core pillar of the new strategy going forward from a time-based approach, they're going to shift to one that is based on conditions on the ground. That said, there's really no indication of how progress will be measured, but the focus will be on killing terrorists, says Donald Trump, and not on nation building. He also said that there will be plans for attacks, but he didn't want to give details on that either. Take a listen to the U.S. president.
America's enemies must never know our plans or believe they can wait us out. I will not say when we are going to attack, but attack we will.
So that was a similar tone that we had heard during the campaign. But for the most part, this is absolutely, as you said, Heather, a shift in direction from what we have previously heard from the U.S. president. Also, we'll take note there of his presidential posture and tone that he took on during the course of this address. He was very clear also that he said in the support for Afghanistan and the U.S. involvement there. This was not a blank check for support, and he was putting pressure on other nations in the region, in South Asia, and also the Afghan government to also step up to the plate, Heather.
So this has been a 16-year war, Aarti, for the United States, and as private citizen, Donald Trump was certainly very critical of the campaign, saying it was costing a lot of blood and treasure from the American standpoint. So how is he now explaining that away in this speech?
And you know, that perspective there that you gave of Donald Trump, that was from 2013. And if you bear with me a moment, we'll go through a couple of his other tweets. Again, this was prior to him saying that he would want to run for president. Let's take a look at some of those tweets, some of his previous thoughts on what the war in Afghanistan was. He said, this is back in 2012, saying it's time to get out of Afghanistan. We are building roads and schools for people that hate us. It is not in our national interest. Then moving forward to 2013, he said then we should leave Afghanistan immediately. No more wasted lives. If we have to go back in, we go in hard and quick. Rebuild the U.S. first. And finally, let's go to December of 2015. And in this tweet, he said a suicide bomber has just killed U.S. troops in Afghanistan. When will our leaders get tough and smart? We are being led to slaughter. So quite a contrast from the message that we heard from the U.S. president last night. Now, part of what he said is that his initial instinct was to pull out, as we saw in those tweets, but he said often perspectives change when you're in the Oval Office, and this was another part of that reasoning. Take a listen again to Donald Trump.
A hasty withdrawal would create a vacuum that terrorists, including ISIS and al-Qaeda, would instantly fill, just as happened before September 11th.
So that was all part of the explanation that he was giving to supporters and to the audience there, to the American public, on why he believes that America should continue on, as you mentioned, Heather, in this longest war that the nation has been involved with.
Aarti from Washington starting things there. Thank you, Aarti. Another